Imagine you're looking up at the moon and then instead of craters, you see a nuclear reactor on the moon. Yes, a real one. Now, it just sounds like a science fiction, right? But it's not. NASA is building and installing a nuclear reactor on the moon by the year 2030. This reactor will help power future lunar missions, so basically to run rovers, labs, and maybe even small moon bases. Because here's the problem. So the lunar nights last over 14 Earth days, and solar panels just does not cut it. So basically, on the moon, a blackout does not mean inconvenience, but it could mean a big disaster. But before we get excited, let's talk about the laws of space. So basically, space isn't lawless. It's governed by something called the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. It states that space is free for all nations to explore. Second, no one can claim land in space. And the third one is space should only be used peacefully. But here's the twist. Let's say NASA builds a reactor and then says, for safety reasons, this area is off limits to other countries. Now, does that count as a territorial claim? Because if you control the land around the reactor, isn't that the same as owning one? There's also the Moon Agreement of 1979. It says the moon and its resources are the common heritage of mankind, and any activity there must be internationally regulated. But you know what? There's a catch in this. So the US, Russia, China, and most space powers never signed it. So the rules do exist, but the big players aren't following them. It's like creating house rules that none of your flatmates actually agree to. We're entering a new era of space, which just not talks about exploration, but rather it's becoming commercial, political, and yes, even nuclear. So the big question of space law or nuclear reactor is not that can we build a nuclear reactor on the moon, but it should be should we, and more importantly, under whose laws or whose guidance. So, next time when you hear something like this, you're going to think about questions like who should be allowed to build things on the moon? Or should private companies be allowed to put reactor in space? Or what should or what would you do if a space reactor affected Earth's atmosphere? And lastly, if you could make one space law, what could it be? Even the experts say that the real danger is not the reactor itself, but the precedent it sets. Once one country installs infrastructure on the moon, others will follow. Without clear laws, we risk turning the moon into the next geopolitical battleground. If you found this topic interesting and fascinating, do like, share, subscribe, and comment below. I'll see you next time.